while also providing our students. Our head of the department, Dr. Subramanian, in his absence, his guidance and leadership continuously motivate us to organize these sort of events. It is indeed a privilege for us to have us today Mr. Kishore Subramanian, the Chief Technology Officer, Propel Software, and a proud alumnus of CETAA from the 1995 batch of Electronics and Instrumentation. We are delighted that you have joined us to share your valuable insights on AI-forward product development, and we look forward to learning from your expertise and experience in this rapidly evolving field of technology. I would also like to extend a warm welcome to Dr. Abhilash Sureen, the Secretary of CETAA Alumni Association, in his absence because of some urgent work. He is not there with us, but he is the one who initiated and who is actively helping us to organize this event for today. And we sincerely appreciate his initiatives in organizing the Golden Jubilee Lecture Series. My warm greetings also goes to all the faculty members and all dear students, and I hope that the session will be very informative, and I believe that this will enrich your knowledge in this way. And may I now invite Ms. Amrita, that is, she is our MTech AI final year student, and she is the winner of Jubilee Art and Innovation Challenge held in Malaysia, and she received the Best Women Engineer Award. And I'm welcoming Amrita to introduce our esteemed resource person to you all. Over to you, Amrita. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. It is a proud moment for me, representing the CET family, to introduce our distinguished guest, Mr. Kishore Subramanian, Chief Technology Officer at Propel Software and CET alumnus from the 1995 Applied Electronics and Instrumentation batch. Mr. Kishore Subramanian brings with him over 2 decades of industry experience in building large-scale software products and leading engineering teams across the global technology landscape. Prior to joining his current role as the CTO at Propel Software, Mr. Kishore Subramanian held several key positions in leading technology in companies. He worked as a senior software engineer at Google, contributing to major initiatives including Google Assistant developer platforms and Fire's Go Android application. Earlier in his career, he also served as the senior software engineer at Motorola Mobility and held important engineering roles in Silicon Valley, contributing to development of innovative software platforms. Beyond his technical leadership, Mr. Kishore Subramanian is passionate about building high-performing teams and fostering culture of continuous learning and collaboration. His leadership philosophy is deeply influenced by mindfulness and self-awareness, which he cultivates as a trained yoga teacher and practitioner. Today, he will be sharing his insights on AI-forward product development, discussing how artificial intelligence is transforming the software and product development lifecycle, the evolving role of engineers, and future opportunities in AI-driven technology landscape. Please join with me in extending a warm and enthusiastic welcome to Mr. Kishore Subramanian, Chief Technology Officer at Propel Software. Sir, the stage is all yours.
Hear me now? Great. All right. Hello everyone. I'm Kishore Subramanian, and thank you so much, Anuranjan, and thank you staff and students, and also thanks to Abhilash who invited me. Abhilash Suryan is a batchmate from the 1995 CT batch. So the last time I was here in Trivandrum, he had mentioned this, saying that, hey, maybe the next time you come here, it would be great to talk to the students, and I just thought this was a wonderful opportunity while I was here to make this happen. So thank you so much for coming on a Friday evening. I know I'm standing in between you and your Friday evening plans, but hopefully it'll be worth it. I hope so. All right. All right. So today I picked this topic because I'm sure this is on top of many of your minds, right? At this point, there's just a lot of transformation that's happening overall, right? And how does this, especially with AI, and how does this actually affect you? And what you should be thinking about as you look into the future? What does that look like, right? So I know there is a lot going on, and I would like to share what's going on. And then let's actually also keep it interactive. So I'll have some time in between. Maybe if you have questions, we stop there and we take those questions as well. And if you repeat the question, I can repeat the question when you say it, right? Hopefully this works. Or maybe present mode or PowerPoint. Yeah, I think that is it. That should work. That works. All right. All right. So I work for Propel Software. This is a small, I would say less than 100 people, a software startup based in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area. I'm CTO there. I lead the engineering team. Been there for a little over 7 years, and prior to that, I was at Google for almost a little over 7 years as well. I've been pretty much building stuff. Even now, I pretty much write code, almost on a daily basis. I would say. When I say write code, build something with software, and we'll see why I don't want to say write code anymore in the course of this. So outside of work, I'm also a certified yoga teacher and a practitioner as well for many years. All right, that's about me. So if we were in a cave for the last year or so, and then we came out, you would have seen that the whole landscape has changed when it comes to software development, right? And I know I'm emphasizing software, but this is coming for pretty much every industry, right? But it is starting with software for various reasons. Software is one of the first areas where AI is starting to completely disrupt what we have been doing all these years, right? I'm sure many of you are reading, and you're probably reading about it quite a bit, but this is what has happened, and you'll see what is happening there. And the other thing is, these changes that are happening around us, it's exponential. And as you know, anything that's exponentially growing is going to come at us very, very quickly, much faster than you can imagine, right? And that's what is going on right now. And I can tell you, in the San Francisco Bay Area where all these things are happening, we are right in the middle of it. And we can feel the pulse there, of all these companies that are, whether it's Google on one end, OpenAI with ChatGPT, or Anthropic with Claude and whatnot. That whole, I think there's a huge buzz in this area. And I can also tell you, in 30 years of my career, 30 plus years of my career, I've never seen a moment like this, right? I've never seen a moment like this. I've been through multiple such transformations. Initially, it was the internet. That itself was a big, huge thing. But at this point, this is bigger than the internet in many ways, right? And it's important that we grasp what's going on, right? So we had the internet wave, and then the mobile wave happened after 2008, and then the cloud wave, and so on and so forth. But this is bigger than anything else that we have seen. All right. Now, I'm going to shift. So there are 3 parts to my talk, and the first part is around what is changing, right? The second part is I'll dive a little bit into the type of tools that we use at Propel. I'll just give you a glimpse into how AI actually translates to in software development. Right? I'll give a glimpse. For that, I will probably use my laptop and I'll go there. And then the final part is about what should you as students be doing, right? Just some pointers, and I'm not here to tell you exactly what you should be doing, but some pointers for you to think about as you look into the future, right? So in 3 points. So in the first part, I just want you to understand, in a software development life cycle, right? What do I mean by that? when you're building any type of software, it typically goes through these different phases, right? So you have an idea or a concept, right? And then you capture those ideas in certain documents. We call it PRD, and different companies call it by different names. But slowly it starts to go into a design phase where you start to prototype, because there might be aspects of it you may not understand fully. So you prototype, and then slowly moves into actual development and further, right? This is the general software development, methodology and different phases as well. Nothing new here, right? This is all there, even there for many years, right? Now, before AI, this is what used to happen, which is that the bulk of the time was spent actually in writing code, right? So we saw there are many phases, but then the coding part was the most, I would say, time-consuming, tedious, as well as the part which took us the most amount of time, right? Very manual and laborious, so on and so forth, right? So this development loop, yeah. Cost, yes, absolutely. Costly, time consuming, also went there, absolutely. Yes, that's right. Correct, workforce also, you have a good point, Andrew. So most of the people on a team, if you look at it, people who are contributing to the different parts of it, the most number would be people who are writing code, software engineers, let's just say. Right? We all know that in terms of how many more software engineers are there versus, let's say, a product manager or someone who's testing and so on. So this part was the biggest time sink as well as laborious work, right? Because of which, we actually did everything around it. We wanted to make sure we have all the information before we start to write code, and then we built mock-ups, we wrote down requirements documents so that as you pass this down and you start to work on the code, you have all the information you need, because changing that is expensive, right? So we did that. So this is before AI, right? And this has been going on for many years. Now, what's happened in the last couple of years, in fact less than 2 years, just less than 18 months, and most of the thing has, again, because of the exponential nature of this, most of it happened in the last 6 to 8 months. All these tools called coding agents started to become very, very popular, right? How many of you have used one of these or heard about one of these, right? Great. Yeah, I'm sure you'll hear about it if you haven't. But these are all startups that did not even exist 2 years before, right? Now, take Cursor for instance, right? So this is a tool that basically is now becoming a de facto standard for software developers, right? Now, if you look at Claude Code, right? Claude is, who has heard of Claude? Claude, most of you have heard of Claude. It's by this company called Anthropic. Anthropic builds, Claude is one of the LLMs, just like Gemini and OpenAI. Claude is yet another company, yet another tool made by Anthropic in this case. Right? Now, it has become such a big thing that at this point, even if you look at in the last few months, it has actually caused a big uproar even in the stock markets. It has gone down to the fact that people are panicking even in the stock markets, because people are seeing that these large companies, whether it's Salesforce or IBM or you name some of these big companies that has built the products over many, many years, they are starting to lose their advantage in some ways, because few of us sitting in a room here using these coding agents and many of the other AI capabilities can actually challenge them at this point, right? So stock market has actually taken notice and saying that, oh wait, with this, somebody can actually build similar tools, if not the whole big thing, but at least start to kind of disrupt some of the existing practices. So these companies may not be able to charge as much because somebody else might say, you know what, I can build this myself. Why do I need to pay you so much money for this, right? So all these are causing huge disruptions in the stock market to the point where, like, you have heard of IBM. IBM actually has this language called COBOL, right? Back in the day, it was widely used back in the day in mainframes and so on. IBM actually, turns out, even today, makes a lot of money by supporting applications that are built on COBOL, because they run some of these very hardcore processes in banks and many other places, right? In some of these, it's been there for 30 plus years, 40 plus years, but they have not changed it. It's still there. IBM had the biggest stock market fall. Their stock fell the most. This happened around 2-3 weeks ago when Claude Code, Anthropic came out and said Claude can now read and write COBOL. Right? IBM makes money by supporting these old applications, huge amount of money. But now, if Claude Code can do it, IBM is not going to be able to charge however they much large amount of money that they charge with these numbers. And just giving you a sense of what's happening. So this is causing disruptions, not just in our world as engineers. People are taking notice in different places. Right? That's the point. All right. Now, with AI though, coming back to our previous slide, we spent a lot of time in code. Now, what's happened with some of these tools, with AI, there is a shift happening towards the left-hand side. What I mean by that, we are spending more and more time in specification, in the concept. What is it that you are building? What is the system level design, right? What practices should I follow on the in my design and so on? User experience. So a lot of those are getting a lot more attention, because that drives everything else on the right hand side. Okay. Now companies don't have to spend that much amount of time actually in writing the code. Instead, it is about what you want to build. So if you look at the left side, the focus is on the what. What are you trying to build? What problem does it solve, and so on. The right hand side is the how, which is how do I translate what I want into an artifact, into a solution. That is the right-hand side. The solutioning has become much, much more easier than how it was before. Now the focus is shifted to the what. So if you know what you want to build, right, and this is not limited to software, I can tell you that. It's only the software area is disrupted first. But let's just say in anything, in any creative field, right, let's take music for instance, right? If you have a concept in mind of a song that you want to compose, right? That is the what. You have a concept, you kind of know what it is that you want to make, right? What it is that you want to compose. And how you do it is on the right hand side, and finally you get an artifact, which is the song that you make, right? So in the same way, it is, and these tools are going to disrupt every creative field. All right. Now, when these kind of disruptions happen, there are different ways in which we deal with it, right? On one side, we might say, I don't know about this. I'm going to stick with what I know. I'm going to do whatever I've used to be doing for many, many years, and I'm going to do that. On the other hand, you can actually, if you're on top of this, you can actually take this is a huge advantage and a huge force multiplier, if you will. But for that to happen, you need to change your mindset in terms of how you see this transformation that's happening around you. And what is that? As I'm mentioning here, think of more in terms of problem solving rather than actual code, because code as something that we do is no longer going to be there by the time many of you graduate. That will no longer be there, but doesn't mean that you don't have to learn. I'll come to that. But at the same time, it may not be as important as knowing what to do, right? Now, okay, I can skip this. Let me come back to that. So this is the first and one of the most important people in this space, in AI space right now. And he was here, in fact, 2 weeks ago in India during the AI Summit. He was one of the keynote speakers, if I'm not mistaken. So he's the CEO of Anthropic, Dario. And as he says, like, AI is writing most of the code for Anthropic today. It's starting to do it since November or so. Most of the code for its LLM, Claude's LLM, is being written by Claude Code. And now what's happening is Claude LLM drives Claude Code, the tool, which is getting better, and so it's able to write even better code for the LLM. So it's kind of created this nice virtuous cycle, right? One feeding the other in a positive way, right? And this is creating a, what do you say, the type of exponential change that we are not used to. We are typically used to some linear changes, but this kind of stuff is creating a huge upheaval in our industry. And this is yet another person. His name is Boris Cherny. So Claude Code. So he's a creator of Claude Code, right? So he was a programmer. He is a programmer at Anthropic, and he decided to build Claude Code using Claude's LLM a little more than a year ago. At this point, he is one of the world's most prolific coders, right? And he was at Instagram, Meta, and a few other things before this. He is known to be one of the most prolific coders. And to hear from him, as of November last year, he says 100% of the code that he produces, he no longer says he writes, he produces, is built by Claude Code, right? Now, but at the same time, this doesn't mean our, what do you say, our work as software engineers or engineers in general, it has to adapt, we have to adapt to this, right? So that's the whole point. I really encourage you to listen to this podcast, which is on YouTube, with the head of Claude Code. I mean, he makes some really amazing points here. So this is something I would like for all of us to kind of really embrace this concept, right? We thought a software developer's job is to write code. We kind of assumed implicitly, because that was the biggest task in this whole life cycle. So we kind of assumed that this is our main thing to do. It is not so. Our job is to, let's say, when I say our job as a software engineer, or any engineer for that matter, is to solve problems using software in this case, right? So you take a step back and say, I'm not married to the code. Code is a means to an end. But I'm going to use that. I'm going to use whatever is available with me to solve problems. So that's a different mindset. When you look at it from that angle, we no longer look at all these tools as endangering our career and our other things. Instead, we look at it in a different way, right? How can I leverage these tools to actually solve problems, right? So that's a different mindset. It's very important to understand that, right? It's very hard also in some ways. A lot of people who have been writing code for many, many years are stuck in this thing where they say, no, I don't want to use these things. This is what I do, this is what I've done always, and I'm going to continue doing that. Well, good luck. That's kind of, we have to make changes and adapt, but we can do it. And if you do, you will see that you can really, really leverage these tools to do a lot more things. Right? So, I would like to take an example of our role as a software engineer. And I keep using software engineer, but this is true of, you can just replace that with any other engineering as well. Even if you're a mechanical engineer, that's coming for your thing as well. Like your MCAD tools, whether it's SolidWorks or any other tool that you use for your CAD design. In the near future, the CAD design, you would want to, again, the same thing will apply. What do you want to do? Like, I want to build this particular part and design this. You would be able to, that is where your skill will move, rather than being able to position everything correctly and be able to use the tool correctly, right? That's kind of where it's going, right? Now, the example I would like to use, or the metaphor, is that of an orchestra conductor, right? Think of the person with the wand, right? Just imagine that. Now, this orchestra conductor has the entire kind of concept completely, they know what they want to get out of this orchestra. So the concept of the music, the concept of what they want to produce is very clear in their head, the goal, right? And they know how to teach groups of instrumentalists to play what is needed, right? Whether it's a violinist or somebody else, they know how to get and how to get them to do what this person wants. Now, when these instrumentalists kind of go off track, they also know how to get them back. So why am I saying this? Now, it's very important that this orchestra conductor is not playing the instruments themselves, but is able to get the music done, right? But they are extremely aware. They're not just telling them something and then going away. They are very much aware of what's going on, how the music is being played, and if something goes wrong, they know how to get it back, right? So they're very much aware as this is going on. So our job as engineers is also becoming that way, which is that with AI, which we eventually will, that we are like these orchestra conductors in the sense that we will be able to use these tools. The tools will generate the code in this case. However, you are very much in control. You know when the tool builds something wrong and get it back on track, if you will. And the goal in terms of the watch, right? We saw that earlier. There's a shift left happening. What is it that you want to build? That will be the focus that we will be spending more time on in terms of as engineers. That's where we'll be spending more time, right? Yeah. So keep this metaphor in mind. I think it's. I will. We can stop for questions after this particular slide. I'm sure, who has heard of vibe coding, the term? Everybody's kind of heard at this time. So this is a term used by, actually coined by this person by name Andrej Karpathy. He was an engineer at Tesla and with OpenAI and so on. And he coined the term because he started seeing how people could just tell the AI tool what you want and just go have some coffee and kind of come back and just relax and let it do its work, right? He called it vibe coding, just out of, he posted it on Twitter and the term just really stuck. Not Twitter, X, and then it's really stuck. So what I'm talking about is more as engineers, when you start to build production quality software and so on, we are talking about AI-assisted coding. Vibe coding is there, that it has its place, but that in that case, you're not, the person who's using these tools doesn't really know what is being produced, right? But with AI-assisted coding, you are more like the conductor, who knows exactly what the tool is producing and knows how to control the tool to get you what you want, right? So far, so good. So, before I go to the next, are there any questions that we can take? Please.
You actually said before that, before AI, it was actually very costly to produce different types of data. My question is, after AI, when we write code, and it takes a lot of tokens to generate the prototype, fix any errors, define prototype and code, and those tokens translate to a lot of computing power in AI data centers which take a lot of resources.
Right.
So it's actually more costly after AI. And another question I have is a vibe coding actually generated? Because recently there was this news about broad frequency compiler. And the problem I thought of is that it actually was already trained on C compiler and was it truly innovative? That's all.
Okay, I think two really good questions. So one is when you say you can actually, in terms of the cost, is it really reduce costs? Because AI tools cost a lot of money, there's a lot of compute power and so on. But as you know, the answer to that is, this is a completely new build-up that's going on, right? Companies like OpenAI or Google, Amazon, Meta, they're all investing huge amount of money in new data centers, right? So the data centers of the past, like I wouldn't say past, before AI, were primarily based on CPUs and for general loads, but these are different types of data centers being built, right? In the scale that, to the point like there's $600 billion going to be spent this year alone on these data centers and so on. There's over a period of time that cost will come down, right? As the build out happens, right now it is expensive and they're thinking in terms of tokens and so on, and so much tokens cost so much money and so on. Think of it, think of the days back in 2015 and before Geo actually came in. People are thinking in terms of data. Oh, 1 MB data is so much and so on. Now, does anybody even think about data, right? There's no concept at all, right? We don't think in those terms. So as it becomes abundant, the cost is going to go down. And that is the bet that these companies are making. But in the meantime, we are in the transitionary phase, right? So that's one. The second question was related to creativity, right? Now, to me, creativity is a skill, I think it's a core human skill. Now, while AI tools, they are trained on existing knowledge, right? And it's able to infer and make connections and come up with something new. That, you agree, right? But I would still say that creativity is still very much in our domain, and in terms of the human domain. And that's where distinguishing between the what and the how actually helps. Our focus as we go along this journey will be more and more on the what, which is the creative aspect, which is what is the idea that you want to work on? What is it that you want to, what is it that you want to build? That part will come from us. And the how part will be done by the tool. You see what I mean, right? Great questions though, thank you. Anybody else? Any, on any of the parts that we've discussed so far?
The last one, that vibe coding,
Yeah.
AI assisted coding. So, after time process, the gap between these two may be coming down.
Right. I think they're both doing the same thing. The main difference is somebody who is kind of quote unquote vibe coding doesn't know code. There's very little knowledge of what is being produced. Right? So they know what they want, and then they tell the tool, here's what I want to build. As an example, I want to build a website for my store. I'm selling ice creams. I want to, and these are the flavors, and I give it an Excel spreadsheet or a Google spreadsheet and say, I want to build a store, and I want to put all these content in the store, right? But that person does not know, let's just say, what is a website, what is it made of, what is HTML, what is JavaScript, or what is a database? No. So that's vibe coding for the most part. AI-assisted coding, I'm distinguishing it basically to say that even as engineers, we are using these tools, but with full awareness of what the tools can do, and knowing very well when the tools build something, is this looking correct? I have my own guardrails. When I say guardrails, I don't want the tool to kind of hallucinate and start generating all kinds of code. I want it to do what I want it to do, right? So, is it doing that? If not, how do I bring it back to doing that, right? So that kind of awareness, there's actually one slide where I think Harvard School of Business, they actually did a research saying that, hey, why are some companies and some people able to leverage AI really, really well, whereas others aren't? Why is it so non-uniform in terms of the benefits that people are getting from AI? And the conclusion, one of the conclusions was that people who have metacognition, they call it metacognition, it's a fancy term, but basically what they're saying is, are you aware of what the tool is producing at every point? Because otherwise the tool is going to hallucinate if it doesn't have the right information, and you would not know whether it's right or wrong. You would just accept it, and then it might cause problems. It may have some security issues in the code that it's generating. It may not be efficient, and so on and so forth. It will be hard to maintain over a period of time. So it's important for us as engineers, even though we're not actually writing code, it's extremely important that you study the architecture, the principles behind that, whether it's algorithms or other things that you are studying today. Those are all extremely important because you need to be aware of what the tool is producing. Only then you'll be able to distinguish between this is right and this is not right. You see what I mean? Otherwise, we're just going to say, oh, it's just produced so many thousands of lines of code. I have no idea what it's producing. I'm just going to accept it and click a button. And that's not what we are here to do, right? So that is the distinguishing feature, I would say. The awareness of what the tool is producing, right? So now, any other questions? If not, we'll take more towards the end. But I just wanted to show you some of the tools, right? Throughout that life cycle that we were talking about. Sorry, I just need to use my glasses. So, we spoke about the different parts of this life cycle. So initially, let's say you're working on an idea, you can work with the tool, with AI to actually discuss the idea, brainstorm the idea. right? So you have this idea and you say, what do you think about it, right? And you can ask it questions. You can have AI ask that question back to you, saying, what am I not considering, right? This kind of back and forth can happen in the initial stages, right, in terms of idea generation, right? And then as you keep going, we use it for, so for instance, let me jump back and forth here. So here, for instance, sorry. Okay, I'll come back to this. Okay, I'll come back to this. I don't think I'm connected here, so that's okay. I'll come back to this. Right. So another important thing is around rapid prototyping, right? So you have an idea, you want to just quickly see how I can get this going, right? What are the different aspects of it? What are some of the unknowns that you don't know yet, right? That what are the things that you're going to encounter along the way? So you can build a prototype very quickly, and then as you build a prototype and show it to people, what will happen is they are going to come back and tell you, hey, this is working and this is not working. They're going to provide feedback to you, right? So that's very important, so that what you build is actually useful to your users, right? Your final end users of the system. What is it that you want? And you can quickly iterate based on that feedback. Oh yeah, this particular part is not working. I can make those changes and keep iterating very, very quickly. In the past, before AI, that was not easy to do by any means, right? Because it would take a lot more time to build it, so it is hard to get feedback. So you would build it based on your assumptions, and it may or may not work in the end, right? So there was a lot of those kind of concerns earlier. Now this is possible today, right? Now I just want to show you a particular tool. In this case, I use this tool called Windsor. I know it's probably a very small font. Let me change that. Is it better? Okay. How many of you have used any type of IDE? Does VS Code? Anybody has used VS Code? Okay, great, awesome. Good to see that most of you have. Anyone has used any coding agent within VS Code? GitHub Copilot, or what do you use? Windsor. You use Windsor, so you're very familiar with this. Okay. So Windsor, Cursor, GitHub Copilot, what have you, they've all built on top of VS Code. So what I'm showing is Windsor, because that's what we rolled it out in our company. There's actually a connection with CETAA here, by the way. Okay, fun fact. So Windsur's founder, the main founder, is a person he's probably a 27, 28-year-old. He grew up in the Bay Area, in San Francisco Bay. His name is Varun Mohan. Varun's mother, Deepa Mohan, was 5 years my senior in CETAA. So that's a connection to Windsor. So it's just a fun fact. And Varun is now, long story short, he now works at Google DeepMind and working on Google anti-gravity product, which is Google's similar product. Anyway, so okay, so if you really look at, this is me working on stuff, right? And I know it doesn't matter what this shows, but what I'm saying is I'm spending most of my time on the right-hand panel, right? Which is defining what is it that I want the coding agent to do. I'm explaining what I want. It spits out the code, but I'm giving it a lot of guardrails. Okay, let me tell you what that means. So how many of you used just ChatGPT for writing code, right? Many of you probably explained and then you copy paste code into what have you, right? But here, ChatGPT by itself does not have context about your other parts of your system, right? It doesn't have. It doesn't know the rules about this and so on and so forth. What your design, your architecture, the different layers of your patterns that you use and so on, right? All those are important as you build stuff. But it doesn't know that, right? So it's going to do what it knows. And as you start to build more industrial level software, you want it to follow certain patterns that is already established, right? That usually happens in engineering, right? You're going to follow patterns that are established. So what I'm showing here is called cloud.md, and .md stands for Markdown files. So this is like explaining, this is us, my team has written all kinds of guidelines, if you will, for the AI agent. Like here is what you would do. Let's say you are, you get an intern to work with you. Let's just say, and this is a very smart intern who has really grasped a lot of information, right? So this intern is working with you. You're not going to tell the intern, here's a problem, go solve it, right? The chances of that happening are very low, that you're going to come back with a proper solution. Instead, you're going to tell the intern, let me tell you, this is how we do things, and show them examples. Okay, here's an example of this particular situation, and so on and so forth, right? Those are guidelines. And then you might also tell the intern, do this, don't do that, right? And give them examples there as well, right? So, and then you've given the intern enough information to now go and think about it and come back with a solution. The chances of getting a solution are much higher when you do that. Yes or no? Right? This is very similar. So that's what I mean by guardrails, which is that if we are telling the AI tool, what to do, what not to do, and here are some examples in these situations, and so it doesn't matter what exactly it says, but I'm just telling you that these are the ways in which the new way of working, rather, right? So WinServe is not just generating and spitting out code, it is generating code as per your guidelines, right? And following very strictly what you have already laid out, right? So this is like the conductor, orchestra conductor, telling exactly what they want from each of those groups of instrumentalists, right? This is like telling it what to do. So I'm telling it that way, right? And after that, when I can start to work with it, I can be rest assured that the code it generates is pretty good. But no matter what, no matter how good it is, you will want to actually, once the code is written, what typically happens in a production scenario is that you would want somebody to review the code, right? Has anybody used GitHub and reviewed code? People use GitHub. How many of you have used GitHub? Are you familiar with a pull request? What a pull request is, right? So pull request is basically the concept in GitHub, which where when you're making changes in code, the pull request is the vehicle for carrying that change, right? So and you can review. Right, so you're making a change, you want somebody to review it. Like I make a change, I have somebody else on my team review the code that changes that I made to make sure that I've not missed anything. In general, it's good to have more pairs of eyes before it gets committed. Right, this is true of any work. It's not necessarily just for software, but in general, that's what we do. Right now, there are code review agents now. Right, so one agent is generating the code under our guidance, but then we could also have code review agents actually review the code. I hope I can show that to you. Let me see. I pulled it out before. So here is a pull request. Right? Doesn't matter what that exact content is. Again, in fact, I was working on this just a couple of days ago. So I was able to generate all this really nice problem. What is the problem that I'm trying to solve in this particular case? What changes did I make, and so on and so forth? Because it makes it easier for a reviewer to actually look at it, right? That's one part. But then the most important one is now I have a code review agent. So here is an example. As I scroll down, here's an example where our code review agent is called Devin. That's the name of our code review agent. Now it's looking at the source code, and then it has actually figured out some problems with the source code the changes that I made. Right? Now it's saying, hey, this does not preserve the structural parent categories. I've written a comment saying that this is what I'm trying to do, but it's saying that that's not meeting, that there is a bug in your code, basically, right? And then it's actually performing, it's saying what is the root cause, and it tells me how to solve it also. It's saying, hey, make these changes to fix this problem, right? So in the past, a human would do this, but they oftentimes may not get to this level of detail. It's very hard to, even at Google, I remember people used to take code review very, very seriously. However, even there, I've never seen review as good as thorough as this, right? It's able to perform an analysis of the code, it's able to understand the context, what am I trying to build, and then telling me that this is the problem, and here is and it's showing me what to do also. So not only what's the problem, but also how to fix it, right? And now I can take this and say, now what I typically do is I now take this, send it back to Cloud Code, which is what I typically use, and then ask it, hey, this is the feedback from another agent, review it, and go ahead and fix it, right? So now Cloud Code it'll do its own analysis and say, oh, you know what, I missed that, sorry about that, I'm going to fix it, right? So now, again, I want to emphasize that this is a new way of working with it, right? In the past, this was not the case. I would have to go back and fix it myself, but at the same time, I need to be aware, what is it doing? I'm not just vibing at this stage, right? I want to be very sure that this is the right thing also, right? So I'm very much in the loop, like the orchestra conductor. Any questions on that? So far so good. Is that useful to kind of see what's happening both in terms of in different aspects of the software development workflow, right? Now we are in this development test, and same thing with unit tests. How many of you are familiar with what a unit test is, and have you written one? Anyone? Okay. So when you write code, let's say there's an algorithm given to you, right? And you're working on that algorithm, and you've written code for this. Now, you want to test and make sure that it works. So you have written something, you want to test and ensure that what you wrote meets the intent, that you did this with a certain idea, and you create an algorithm for sorting, for instance. Now you want to test whether it actually works. So you would have different scenarios. You may have an empty array and ask it to sort it. You may have a large array. You may have a mixed set of things and see whether it's actually working or not. Right? That's unit test. Right? For the particular thing, sorting method, that would be a unit test. AI can generate the unit test really, really well. So you work on your, what is your main code, and then have it generate the unit test. Right? It can actually generate a plethora of unit tests covering all the corner cases, the regular cases, and so on and so forth, right? And being able to, again, use that. You can prompt it and say, generate unit tests for my, this particular type of, in this work, right? This particular class, right? So you can do that. All right. And of course, like, I'm just saying that as you release a product, you've worked on it, you've written code, now it's ready to be shipped. You can actually write release notes, your documentation, you can generate blogs. For all of those things, AI can obviously be used to speed up these things, right? So many of you probably use open source projects on GitHub. It's almost always very well documented. Because without that, it's hard for somebody else to use it, right? So this is, it can help us do that. Now, beyond product development, right? Typically in a company, what also happens is, you have to sell your product, right? And as part of your sales process, there might be, your customers or your prospects may want to see some changes to be made in your product. Show me you can do this. There are all these things that, during the sales process, you may want to, the customer may want you to prove that it works for that particular need that they are looking for. You may have to build prototypes, in other words, as part of the sales process. And I can share an example where we had a particular customer that is building a huge, they build data centers, right? These AI data centers that we talked about. And their entire data center, I don't know if you can imagine what a data center is, it's bigger than, let's say, 10 times bigger than a football field, right? Many of them. And it's filled with racks and racks of servers, right? You have pods, and within that they have racks of servers. Each rack can contain many GPUs and so on and so forth, right? Now, they wanted that whole thing, they've been tracking it in a spreadsheet, right? That whole design of the data center. And they wanted to start using our product for this. And they said, hey, I'm going to give you a spreadsheet. I want you to show that you can pull that data into your product as part of the evaluation. Now, in the past, we would have gone back and said, this would take a month or two, and you'll have to pay us to do this, right? But thanks to AI and thanks to the ability to actually build this in no time, without disturbing my team, I was able to do that, or somebody else on my team was able to build this in a couple of days, or less, in fact, right? It opens up the whole what you can do, basically, right? So it changes how you do business in many ways, right? If you know how to leverage it, that's the point. All right, and then we also use it for customer support. So as you support your product, and your product is out there, people are using it, they have questions, right? How do I do this? I'm trying to do this, I'm not able to, I'm hitting an error, what do I do, right? Those types of questions come into what is called customer support. And we have built a tool for customer support where we have trained the tool to understand our entire product, and then when the questions are asked, it's able to provide relevant answers to that. And it's, in most cases, 95% or more accuracy, it's able to do that, right? But a regular ChatGPT may not be able to, because this is very custom information, proprietary information that's only within Propel in this case. So we have a tool that will help us do that as well, right? So customer support becomes a lot easier. In the past, what would happen is the customer support people will try to help the customer. If they're not able to, they would turn around and ask the engineering team, hey, I don't know the answer to this, can you help me with this? But now they're able to serve themselves, essentially, right? So there are various ways in which AI has been used. And this, I think we covered. This is the one I was talking about, how some companies are seeing the benefits while others aren't. It comes down to being that awareness that I was talking about. All right, now I'm going to the last section, which is how do we prepare, and how do you as students prepare for this transformation that's happening with like, whether we like it or not, it's happening around us. How do we prepare ourselves for this, right? I think the most important section I would say for you. But then let's see if there are any further questions on any of the tools that you saw. Sorry, I couldn't show more because, yeah. Yeah, no, so code review would be part of every developer's job, right? So let's say I have a team of 8 developers, 2 QA, people focused on quality assurance. QA stands for quality assurance and testing, basically. And typically there's a person called product manager who is, working on the requirements, right? So your question is basically how many, people focus on code reviews. So let's say person A, team member A has written the code, others will review their code, and the other way around, right? So within the team, they will review each other's code and provide feedback, right? In this case, what's happening is now, if I write code, I can have my bot do the review, first rounds of review. So I can fix things myself before actually a human comes and reviews it, right? So it makes it. So the most important thing with code review is that the earlier you spot a bug, the cheaper it is, right? So if the bug is not found by, the best thing is you don't even have a bug. That's great, but oftentimes that's not the case. But there is a bug in your code. The earlier you find it, it's cheaper. Because if it goes into your release and then the customer is using it and so on, and they hit the bug, then it becomes a bigger problem. Now you need to you need to fix it. You need to send a fix back to the customer and so on. And I'm sure many of you hit issues and applications and other things that each one of us have used. So that whole cycle becomes very expensive, right? So code reviews catch this early on. Right? You're reviewing somebody's code so that if there is a problem, let's catch it early. And these review agents help us with that too. Any other questions, or shall we? Yes.
So, this is something that I experienced myself when I was here. So, like, for example, I get a particular output as a code when I execute, and then the agent will hit a particular error. And what I would actually do is that I would usually give the error to another agent to fix that particular error. But then that agent would generate another error.
Yeah.
And then like it would be a sort of cycle jumping between agents until like half of my code, what originally was, is now filled with random stuff, and you have not really accomplished what the problem wanted me to accomplish.
Yeah.
So,
Great. Yeah.
how can we like sort of have that mindset to not have go into that situation?
Into that situation in the first place. Thank you so much. I think that's a great question. Now, this is a problem that a lot of people are facing, which is that why am I not able to get the output that everything, that I'm not able to get the promised output, basically, right? Now, in a lot of those cases, what happens is you have not set up your guardrails properly. You have not told the agent what is good, what is not, in many cases. I didn't say you, I'm saying in general, the person, they may not have. The other thing could be that it doesn't have the knowledge of your existing system. Like it doesn't have access to other parts of your code or other parts of your product. What is your product, right? It doesn't have access to that. So it lacks the knowledge, and hence it's making a guess. Oh, maybe this is what you mean, let me just generate that, right? Because its knowledge is based on general thing that's out there in GitHub or somewhere else, right? It's trained on that code. It's trying to apply that to your specific use case, and that specific use case only you know. So you have to give it information first. So one way to do that we typically do is I provide the context, I write the context, the entire context. What is the problem that I'm trying to solve? Give it examples. Give it, as I was showing the cloud.md, like show it, these are the do's and don'ts, and so on, right? Once that is there, and then you're working within the coding agent, it has access to your code base already, you've given it the context, you've given it guardrails, it can then more than likely to generate the right code. And from what I've seen, and I've used it for more than a year and a half, a little more than a year now, it's amazing at it. Once you have trained it to do the right thing and given it the information, it does a good job, right? So I would focus on providing it the right information, right? So if you're using Claude, there's Claude.md, there's Claude skills and other things, which is where you provide that information, right? So, but this is a problem that many companies are facing. In fact, I was at another company at Technopark, and they had a similar problem. I mean, one of the persons was exactly that hey, it seems to be generating so much more code that I don't have control over what it's generating at this point, right? I don't know what it's generating. Many of my engineers are just checking in code that they don't understand themselves. So it's resulting in some uneasy, the fact that I don't know what's happening, right? I don't have control over it. And that's why I was again going back to that orchestra metaphor. You want to be in control. You want to be aware of what the coding agents are generating. And you want it to generate the right thing, so you have to train it, you have to provide it the information. Think of it as your intern who is available for you. But you're going to tell the intern, you're providing all the context to the intern before asking the intern to produce something, right? That's what you will do, right? You need to do the same thing here. Good question. Anybody else? All right. Now, so just some pointers I just thought I'll share. At least in the Bay Area, now we're starting to kind of start calling developers as AI native engineers. Basically saying the engineers who are very familiar with how to leverage AI in the workflows. So that's there's a term being used, it's called AI native engineering. To kind of distinguish between people that are not using it versus using it. Like it's almost becoming to that level. Are you AI native or not? In the sense, are you leveraging these tools to the extent and the right way, in fact? And do you know like how to use this? It's like if somebody is going to give me a very, let's say I have this very, very powerful drill, a mechanical drill. If I don't know how to use it, I might actually destroy things at this point, because I just don't know how to use it. But once I know to use it, I can actually build all kinds of things with it. It's the same thing. You want to learn these, how to use this, the workflows. The one thing that you just mentioned, which is that when an agent builds something, can you have another one review it? And then kind of get an opinion from both. That's great, that's a good one. But the other thing is to use planning first before actually having to write code, right? So you work on the plan. So again, going back to the intern example, you might tell the intern what is it that you want to build and say, okay, go and think about it and come back and tell me what are you planning to do. Or you might ask the intern to write a one-pager and say, tell me your plan. How are you going to execute this? And then you might correct the plan and then say, now it looks good, go ahead and do it. Right? It's the same way. You wanted to first work on a plan, review the plan, and eventually write code. Right? You don't want to just jump into writing code in the coding agent. It will just generate all kinds of junk that you may not be able to control at all. So you may want to build these practices, like what those things are. That's what I mean. How to use these tools. So please, I would have so many courses out there. I'm sure, like each of these, whether it's Cursor or Register or something else, learn the right way of using these tools. And invest in it, right? I would say there's nothing better than actually building it yourself, right? I can read however number of cooking books, but I actually have to cook in the kitchen to actually understand what it really means, right? It's the same thing. You want to actually get there and start building things. Now, many of these coding agents and everything that we spoke, it's all available. A lot of them have a student discount, or in many cases, it's available for free for students. At least a certain tier is available for students. Leverage that, use it. They give you credits, certain number of credits, and what have you. So please use that and start building something. Take a problem and build it end to end. Whether it's an app on the iPhone or Android, whether it's a full-blown web application that goes all the way from front end to building the database, everything. You can build the whole thing, right? So I would say just get in there and do it, right? And no substitute for that. And as you do it, your confidence is going to increase. That because these things are changing at an exponential rate. You want to keep up with it, so you're going to build that confidence, and over time, as you graduate and you're looking to interview or go into masters or whatever else, you're going to use these things. So you feel that you're in a better place there, right? So and then there are all these frameworks that people are building, the companies are building, whether it's from OpenAI or Google DeepMind or Anthropic, and most of them are free as well. So start to learn those things, right? I'm not going into each separate part, but I would highly encourage look at their blogs, their products, right? And look at how people are building these things. I'll definitely stay current with those, right? Now, you may want to follow the right people on and since these things are changing, sorry, I couldn't actually finish my slide here, but I would encourage looking at, for instance, Anthropic's engineering page, right? They have, this is their blog where they talk about everything that they're working on and their developers and products that they are releasing. That's great. They also talk about how they build it, right? So understanding those will give you ideas when you start to connect the dots. Same thing with OpenAI or DeepMind. These are all amazing resources that's available to you, pretty much. And follow, I would say, some of these thought leaders like the creator of Cloud Code that we just spoke about, and others. They are sharing all kinds of really useful information on X. Please follow them, it's tremendously helpful because things are changing so rapidly, right? So those are good ways to keep in touch. Same thing with podcasts. I mean, sorry I didn't finish the slide, but there are many podcasts. Substack is a great place. How many of you know Substack? No? Just take a look at it. There are tremendous resources on Substack. How many of you know Medium? Like, it's basically a blog, a community, if you will. So Substack is getting very popular. A lot of people use it. So I find many resources on Substack on these topics. Same thing with some podcasts, like there's Lenny's podcast. You can search for it on YouTube. Amazing number of resources are available. The tools are free. Many of these companies are making it available for students also for free. So please leverage that. And as you equip yourself now, you will find that you are in a far more better position because as you reach the point where you want to now look for a job and stuff like that, you are now differentiating yourself from people who aren't. Like, you want to be AI native at this point. Because what's also happening, okay, let's say you're not interested in software development at all, right? It doesn't matter. Take any other domain, right? Whether you are interested in core engineering, whether it's civil engineering, you're in mechanical, any other field of engineering, or you're interested to be an investment banker. You are in finance, right? You are in healthcare or legal. You name the domain, AI is going to have an impact there. One way or the other, if it's not there already, it is going to be there. Even music and arts, which is something that I didn't include, I should. Whether it's music or anywhere else, it's going to have an impact on this. Right? So you want to be at that intersection, right? Let's say you are very much interested in healthcare, as an example. Even doctors are using AI tools, you know that, right? I don't know how it is here, but it's now become standard practice in the US to use, there is a AI tool called Open Evidence, which is a very popular ChatGPT for doctors. So you're going to see ChatGPT for X, you're going to see many of those things. So ChatGPT for lawyers, ChatGPT for this and that, because you have questions, like let's say you're filing taxes, you may not always have to talk to your tax consultant. There's going to be a software that's going to help you with that, right? So no matter what, what domain you pick and you're interested in, you're going to see AI coming there now or soon. So you want to build those native skills, AI native skills, and that domain, and you want to be in that intersection. I think in the coming, by the time you graduate, in the coming few months, if you will, AI is going to disrupt in all these areas. So you want to be AI native in those areas, combined with the domain that you're already interested in. And I think you put yourself in a really strong place, right? And so I'll stop with that thought. I wish you all the best. And I do believe that each one of you has all the resources today to take advantage of this. So please do that. We don't want to be left out, but you can actually be on the forefront of this. So I hope if there's one takeaway, that would be it, which is that you want to learn these things and be ahead of the curve rather than fall behind, right? Because it's going to go with or without us, it's going to keep moving forward. So please take advantage of all the things that are available to you today. It's really dependent on you. Don't wait for anyone to come and teach you. That will happen in college. A lot of these structured learning is happening. In parallel, you can actually learn many of these things by yourself as well, in addition to that, right? So with that, I will stop my talk, but I'm happy to take any questions, anything at all, directly related or unrelated to this. So I'm happy to take any questions. Okay, thank you so much. Cool. Not in the technical or in any of these professional areas, it's going to be applicable no matter what, right? So anything where you're actually working with things physically, but even there robotics, right? So here's an area, right? If you think about let's say I just took an Uber here. Let's say as an Uber driver, oh, it's not going to get affected. But is it really? Because if you come to San Francisco, I would say every other car is a self-driving car at this point. Every other taxi is a self-driving taxi. There is no driver in it at all. Yeah, at this point in San Francisco, you cannot go to any part of San Francisco and not see a self-driving car. It's become that ubiquitous, right? So, and if somebody said, I'm an Uber driver, I'm not going to be affected by AI, there you go, right? So, or if somebody is on the factory floor working on building a car, let's say in a factory floor, is AI affecting you? Absolutely. What I'm hearing is that in China, many of these factories are actually what is called dark factories, which is there aren't many humans there at all. Robots are actually building these things in the night. It's like, so these things are happening. I don't want to frighten people, but I'm just saying that it's better to get ahead of it rather than saying, because this is going to come in one way or the other. Right. So, yeah, but great question.
Thank you, sir, for the insightful session.
Sure.
So most of participants are computer science students,
Okay.
and they are aspiring software engineers actually.
Sure.
So coming to the hiring perspective, so normally as a software developer,
Right.
the students will be improving their skill set in the coding part generally.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But now there is a paradigm shift in terms of the expectations from the students.
Yeah.
If they are particularly focusing on the software development role.
Right.
So what are the expectations from the hiring team?
Yeah.
What's the major shift in the expectation from the software development? So that our students can, even they are first year, majority of the participants are first year. So right now it's if they can start working
Right.
in that direction.
Right. Yeah, no, great. So great question, and very, very relevant, right? And while I'm painting this picture of what's happening, it's important to know what's happening, right? We shouldn't deny. That's one thing. We should be very much aware of what's happening. Now, how does it impact me as a computer science student in first or second year? In a couple of years, where is it going to be, right? So, some of the skills that I would look for, definitely, are you AI native in that sense? I mean, to my last point, can you start learning some of these tools and use it for your advantage, right? I see a big difference between people who are able to leverage it and people who are not, right? Because even just within my own team, which is not a big team, it's a small team of 25 of us developers, even within that, there are a handful of my team members who are resisting it, right? And they don't want to kind of open themselves to learning something that's as transformational. That's hard. So to me, being AI native means to be able to leverage these tools. Again, going back to my one of the slides that I mentioned, as a software engineer, your job is not to write code. Your job is to solve problems using software. So when you look at it from that angle, can I solve problems? Should be the focus, right? And to solve the problem, this tool happens to be there today. Can I leverage that, right? I don't have to be, we're just so used to code being a big part of it, and hence we kind of assume that a software engineer's job is to write code. It is not. It is to solve problems, right? So keep that mindset shift in mind, and then I think makes it easier to start to learn these tools and kind of become AI native in that sense. I would definitely look for that, and I would look for the right attitude in terms of being open to learning these things and keeping up with it, because this is changing tremendously. So to keep up with it is the other part, right? To learn from others and so on and so forth. I would certainly look for that as well. But having said that, what you're going to learn here, whether it's data structures, algorithms, writing, building projects, and so on, I know it's somewhat easy to kind of go to ChatGPT, get an answer, and do it. Agreed. However, you're going to struggle later, right? Because you want to know what is it that the coding agents are building. You want to know that at a foundational level. That level of knowledge is what you're going to get in college. Please use that. That's very, very important. what I'm showing you is what is happening in the industry, right? We are people who have gone through this grind, we've learned it, and now we are here, we're leveraging these tools. But without knowing without knowing what the tool is producing, you are going to be, you're going to miss out on a very important thing there. That knowledge is important. Right.
Participants, do you have any questions?
So there is so many classifications in this field, right? Like there is computing, DevOps, relational database management, web development, game development, etc. So how should we know which is the best one for us, like the optimal way?
Say that again. How do you know what is the
Best suitable class that field for us to pursue the career in this field?
Okay, so good question. So here's how I look at it. Don't look at it as those specific areas. Look at it as, okay, here to solve this problem, you might actually go from building UI all the way to backend to building, working with databases, DevOps, everything might be included. You need to focus on, the focus will shift to the what. Like, here is a problem, and that problem might be that I need to, it's DevOps related, let's just say. The how part, the tools are going to solve it for you, right? You should be aware, obviously, but with these, with AI in the way where it's right now, you don't have to be just specific to one particular silo like that. Be open to all of them, right? You can, so somebody who's not done DevOps can actually do DevOps, as long as they know how to state the problem and you can actually get help from the tool to do it, right? I don't need to know every nitty-gritty of the DevOps, but I can still get things done. Same thing with languages. Oh, I'm a Java engineer, and so. It doesn't matter. What is the problem? How do I solve it? Systemic thinking is important, which is that overall this is how the system should be and how I want the design should be. I think the focus will go there as well, rather than the nitty-gritties of individual languages and so on and so forth, right? Because the tool is going to do a fantastic job of that. But again, as students, it's extremely important to learn and have the knowledge, of building things, because only then you'll know what is correct and what is not.
Sir, companies are constantly evaluating their engineers. So until now, it might have been how efficient he or she is with the code, or how well versed he is with the structure in his language. But now with the advent of AI, is it the creativity or the ability to focus on the what that the company is looking for? Like what basically is the evaluation criteria that the companies are looking for in an engineer currently?
Great question again. So what you're referring to is what is called developer productivity, as the term we use, and you may have read this. How do you judge, or how do you kind of understand whether you, as a team, I don't want to go individual developer level, but as a team, is it doing the right, how productive is my team, right? And with AI, I mean, previously people have looked at lines of code being produced. That's an easy stat to measure, but it's not useful. It's not a great signal, as many of you would you immediately recognize. That doesn't make much sense. But I think the focus will shift to outcomes, right? These are the problems that we have, and these have been solved. So we will shift to that. Right? And with AI, the focus is primarily that. Right? Focus will shift to how secure is my software, how quickly I was able to get it to market, right? And did it have bugs in that software? What is the quality level of that software? It will shift to those kind of things which can be measured. And as a team, you will be rated, if you will. And as a team, you develop this feature, and you build the right thing and build it right. So that is the outcome, for instance, right? That's where the focus will be. Yeah.
So thank you, sir, for this very insightful session. It was really helpful. So I have a question. The question is, as first-year students, most of us, we all are kind of looking for, good companies and hirings in our 4th years or by the end of our 3rd year. So what are some things you would suggest that we do right now so that we can be prepared for it? Is it more into should we be looking more into developing or developing something of our own like projects, or is it leveraging into AI so that we become prepared for what is going to come in the future?
Yeah. So you said you're
First year student.
First year students. So in fact, I have my younger son is also a first year student in the US, but so I'm very familiar with what you're going through. Yeah, let me put it that way. I would say nothing beats actually doing things. So one, I would learn in the college, which is the your curriculum and whatnot. So that is there. So that is good. That's going to give you the foundational knowledge. The second part is to do something of your own. You have resources, as I said, like tap into resources, whether it's YouTube, many courses, free courses, and so on and so forth. Tap into, Winstuff has probably a student version, Cursor has a student version. Tap into that. Now take a problem and work on it. Right? Maybe join a couple of, a small group of 2 or 3 of you can join together to say, let me work on this, and take it end to end. In fact, try a project where you don't write a single line of code, but have the tool build it right from beginning to the end. Right? Resist the temptation to write anything at all. Just to understand what is it that the tool can do, and how much of it, and make sure before you do that, make sure you are trained to use the tool. Like as with anything, as with any powerful tool, you want to be trained on it first. So take some training, understand how people are using it, and then try different projects like that. There are many some, you can even create a clone of some existing app, but you want to try it yourself. So what does it take to do that, right? You will understand what it means to actually go through that entire life cycle of the software. So, yeah. I would say that's a huge advantage, because the body of work, to me, for somebody like me, I would love to see the body of work. I want to see students being self-motivated to try things by themselves, rather than being told, okay, here's something I need to do for my grades. Sure, you need to do that as part of any institution, but have you also taken something of your own? Because information is available, whether you're here, whether you're in the US or in Europe or somewhere else, the same information is available. What is the self-motivation of the student? Have they shown that level of rigor in actually building something? You'll learn a lot when you do that. That's my take. I certainly look for it when I hire people. Yeah. So it doesn't matter if you have a degree from Stanford or somewhere else. It does matter whether you try something on your own. It matters about me. Anything else? All right. I'll be around if you want to. If anybody has a specific question, feel free to stop by and be here for some more time. But thank you so much for staying on a Friday afternoon. I know it's not easy, but hopefully it was useful, and maybe some seeds in terms of some dots have been connected, something for you to think about. I wish you all the best as you go to college, and thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir, for the wonderful session. And as you all know that sir is a proud alumnus of the 1995 batch. So I'm feeling jealous on you guys, and you're all junior to sir, and last 2 hours we could see that what's the paradigm shift in the product development. So I would suggest that now you're all going to become not just software developers, we are going to become AI native software developers. So hope that you will be able to add those, the expectations from the hiring team. So as sir suggested, keep making the contributions in your GitHub account, and right from beginning, you're all blessed because right from the first year itself, you got the real motivation from Mr. Kishore Subramanian sir. And he was also having the wide experience in Google, working with developing a lot of products and all that. I hope that his expertise and today's session definitely motivated you, and you will be taking this forward. And again, we'll be expecting you as alumni in future coming here and delivering sessions, working in various top level companies and all that. So with that note, let me invite Dr. Disha ma'am, our UG team. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining with us today. So as token of gratitude, I request Disha ma'am to hand over a token of gratitude and a small momentum to our distinguished speaker. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. So, may I now request Dr. Anil sir for giving the vote of thanks.
Thank you so much.
Respected Dean UG Studies, Disha Madam, our respected speaker, Kishore sir, faculty members and our dear students. It is my pleasure duty to propose vote of thanks for today's Golden Jubilee lecture series organized by the CETAA Alumni Association. First and foremost, I express our sincere gratitude to our principal in absence here for the constant encouragement and support in organizing such meaningful academic events that benefit our students and faculty. We are deeply honored to have with us our speaker, Mr. Kishore Subramanian sir, CTO of Propel Software and an esteemed alumnus of the 1997 batch of CET. Thank you, sir, for delivering such an insightful lecture on AI-forward product development.
Thank you.
I would also like to thank the CET Alumni Association for initiating the Golden Jubilee lecture series and for their continued efforts to keep alumni connected with the institution. I would like to acknowledge the efforts of Secretary CETAA, Dr. Abdul, who has invited Kishore sir, and for his active support and leadership in making such initiatives possible. Of course, he is not present right now due to very urgent meeting. I would also like to thank Disha Madam, Dean UG Studies, for her constant support, and she was also kind enough to give a memento to the speaker. Thank you, ma'am. A special word of appreciation goes to the event coordinator, Dr. Pasni, of the Department of Computer Science, who organized the program. It was actually a very short call, maybe, if I remember correctly, it might be around 24 hours or so. I'm actually quite amazed to see that it has realized in such a nice way, and I feel like she might be of that kind of AI native coordinator. Because earlier I was the coordinator of the very same program, but I had maybe some couple of weeks. But this was a very short course. Thank you, ma'am. My sincere thanks goes to all the faculty members, staff and student volunteers who worked behind the scene to ensure the smooth conduct of the program. I would also like to thank the students and participants, those enthusiastic persons and the fruitful discussions which made the program so lively and enjoyable. With these words, I once again thank everyone who contributed to the success of the event. Thank you all, and have a pleasant evening. The tea and snacks are served outside. Please have it.